In this example, we'll be using two client machines. Client 1 is logged in with an administrative user named good user. Client 2 is logged in with an administrative user of bad user. We'll use bad user to show how we can place constraints around applications specific to the application and the user that launched that application. In this session, we'll look at things like remote desktop and how we can lock down network access by the application, by the IP address, or by the port. And then we'll also show how we accomplish this within the CSP policy itself. First, let's take a look at remote desktop itself, a client application used to remotely connect to other machines within your environment. And keep in mind, while we're using remote desktop for this example, this could be applied to Telnet or SSH, PC Anywhere, PuTTY, VNC, any type of remote application. And this can be applied to outbound communication, but can also be applied to inbound communication. What are we listening for? In this first example, we've set up the CSP policy so that we only allow outbound RDP communication from the user good user. Let's test that. So you can see here we were allowed outbound on port 3389 from the RDP application itself. We'll now move over to client 2 logged in as bad user, and maybe this is an administrative account or group of accounts from a group that you've outsourced IT administrative tasks to. So you want to make sure that when they log into your systems, they can't then jump to other environments or other mission critical systems within your environment. So as bad user attempts to launch the exact same program and select the exact same destination server, they're going to have their connection denied. They're going to be unable to reach that particular asset. So here we've actually locked down what the RDP client itself can do. We could also leverage more generic firewall rules. We could have blocked access to this particular and specific IP address. We could also have restricted all network access by this application, so no matter what port is being used, network communication would have been blocked. We could have made an inbound network rule to block the inbound communication over RDP. Or we could have blocked just the port all by itself. So maybe here are the most common ports used by remote desktop protocols, and we're going to block all of these ports at the firewall, irregardless of what IP address they're coming from or what application on the server is trying to listen. For those of you familiar with the IPS policy built into critical system protection, let's go take a look at how we did this. So the first piece, we're going to go and look under interactive program options, default interactive program options, and we're going to come down to network controls. So there's a concept of programs with standard privileges, programs that shouldn't have the normal restrictions placed around them. We can go down here and take a look at these files and see what's defined already. So we're going to come under lists, and we're going to see that the FTP client and then MSTSC, Microsoft Terminal Services, which is where RDP resides, is already listed. And essentially what we did here was we selected the RDP client, selected edit, and all we did was we added the good user account ID here. And again, this could be a local user, AD user, or we could also use groups as well, either local groups or AD groups. And we assigned a value for the rule name. What this tells critical system protection is when this application is launched by this user, don't place the normal constraints around the application. Now, to take a look at those constraints that we have set up around RDP, we actually went in and we set up a firewall rule to block all outbound communication on port 3389 because we're concerned about the admins that we've outsourced our IT administration to being able to log into our environment and then from within RDP out to other machines within the environment that maybe they shouldn't have privileges to. So what we've done is we look under Global Policy Options, we come to Network Controls, Outbound, and then we look at our Outbound Network Rules. And this is where we can come in and actually create firewall rules within Critical System Protection. So let's take a look at what we created. So we essentially said the action we want to be to deny. We can pick the protocol on any local port to any IP address to the remote port of 3389, because we know that is what RDP typically communicates over. And then we can choose whether to log that traffic or not to log that traffic, assign it a rule name, as well as any comments. Comments are very useful if you're entering specific IP addresses as a reminder of what that IP address was or what that port number was. And just to show another example of the application control, application level control, let's take into account that maybe we were running a DNS server on this same server protected by Critical System Protection. So to show how we can lock down network communications to an actual application, we're going to take a look under Service Options, Core OS Services. These are all of these services profiled by Critical System Protection. DNS server, and then we're going to come down here to our network controls. And from here we can expand out and take a look at exactly what inbound traffic we're allowing and what outbound traffic we're allowing. And we can see very quickly what traffic we're allowing inbound to this particular server. And again, all this is tied directly to the DNS service itself. And from here we could go through and we could add more rules, we could remove rules, or we could edit rules. And keep in mind that this does follow a typical firewall fashion where it does work from the top down when processing firewall rules. In summary, within this session we've looked at how we can take a specific remote application and lock down what that application can do based on the user launching it. We've also taken a look at the core firewall functionality of Critical System Protection as well, where users can set up specific rules based on IP addresses or ports, as well as tying all of that information to a specific application as well. And these rules can also be applied to groups of applications as well. For example, all my server applications or all of my interactive end-user applications, or something as simple as Internet Explorer or Firefox. This concludes the session on remote connections within Critical System Protection. Thank you.